So I'm finally sitting down to give you an update on Daughter of the Forest, and I don't really know what to say, in all honesty, because I'm only about 200 pages through and I've been reading it for like a week or two now, and I don't know, it's a big book. My copy is like 650 pages and the chapters, there are only 16 of them, and each one is between like 30 and 70 pages, and that's not even an exaggeration. They are long, and that is like my biggest pet peeve in a book. I don't like long chapters. I find them really difficult to get through. It saps my motivation to read and I don't enjoy it. I just think edit it, cut it down, split them in half, do something, because we don't need 70 pages of one chapter. But I am this far through, and honestly I don't know if I'm enjoying it yet. It's not the type of book that I would normally go for. I love fantasy, as I'm sure many of you are aware. However, I tend to stay away from longer fantasy, and that is mostly because I know that I personally don't have the attention span to get through it, and especially older fantasy. Like, this was written in the 90s, so it's not that old. However, there is a very specific writing style from that kind of era of fantasy, and it's not one that I get on with. This is so description heavy. It's so descriptive, I could say. That's a better way to put it. It's so descriptive, and it's all about nature and trees, and it just reminds me of The Lord of the Rings, and I didn't enjoy that. And it's getting like that in this, and also the plot is very, very slow. Like, as I keep saying, it's a chunky book, so it's not going to be fast-paced. If it was fast, I would guess it'd probably be done in about 400 pages. But I'm 200 pages in, and the plot is finally starting to pick up. It was in the last, like, 50 or so pages that it's finally picked up, and I don't know where it's going. It's going to meander and take forever, and I don't know. I'm glad that the plot has finally picked up, because until this point I was like, I don't want to read it. I put off starting it. I got halfway through the first chapter and was like, I can't do it anymore. I made 20 pages and was like, I can't read this. So I'd be interested to see if I actually make it all the way through. I feel like I have to. I feel obliged to, because, you know, obviously I am a co-host of Myth Take, and if one of your co-hosts doesn't finish the book, what does that say? So I will. It just might take me until June, because honestly, right at the minute, I'm not enjoying it. I'll be honest, I'm not. It's a slog, and I don't know. I'm finding it very difficult to put into words, and that is a big reason why I haven't updated you on my progress until now. But yeah, it's just, I can't even give you like specifics on why I'm not really enjoying it, other than the fact that it's long, and that is ruining my enjoyment. Had this been a lot shorter, I probably would be enjoying it, because I think the plot will be interesting when it eventually properly gets going, because the 7th child of a 7th son, she's a daughter rather than the 7th son of a 7th son, is being tasked to save her brothers who have been turned into swans. And the way she's doing this is through a horrible task where she can't talk to anyone, she can't tell her story, and it's going to take her years to do it. So I am interested to see how that's going to play out. And it is kind of interesting seeing how she's doing all this stuff and not being able to talk. I think the narrative is quite good in that. It's first person, obviously, because she can't talk. So yeah, everything so far has just been very nature heavy and very description heavy on the nature, and yeah, I will say a little bit convenient, because she's like, oh, I'm going to start my task, but here I am, and this is perfect because there's a cave and it's hidden, and there's water, which is perfect for drinking and washing and everything, and then there's like berries and stuff that I need to make the thing from is right there, and it just, yeah, I don't know. I will say though that the main character in this is, she starts the book aged like 12, but she doesn't read that way, which is quite nice, but at the same time it's weird. Like, it's nice to not have like the childish narration, but at the same time it's like, you're 12. You sound like an adult, but you're 12. And I know she gets older throughout the book, so yeah, we'll see her progress and stuff, and I just want to have something more in-depth to talk about. I will, because right now I keep looking down it because I'm like, I've got to read more, and I don't really want to, and I don't want to get the audiobook because the narrator wasn't great on that. So for now, I'm going to read chapter 6, I believe I'm on. So wish me luck. Okay, so last night I read a bit more of Door of the Forest, and today I've kind of like stepped away from it and have just been playing Assassin's Creed, and I've kind of got a few more thoughts on it. But the Myth Take book club group, I guess, I don't know what we're calling ourselves, but we have a Discord and we've got some spoilery chats going on there where we've been discussing things. Before I get into what I mentioned, I have to say there's a big trigger warning for rape in this book because it just kind of happens. I personally don't think it came out of nowhere, but that was maybe because I had been warned about it before, so I knew it was going to happen. However, there were some signs that Circa was saying, oh, this has happened, I can't go into it, I've talked about it once, I don't want to mention it again, so you know that something bad is going to be talked about. But yeah, that is quite early in the book. It's within the first, what, 300 pages, so you know, look out for that. But then I went on to say, after reading that, how nicely it had been handled. It hadn't just like happened to her, it was very much it happened and then it affected her. It was carried with her after the event through everything else that she was doing, and it made her very distrustful of men in general, but also her brothers specifically, because they weren't there to help her, they didn't save her. It happened while she was trying to save them, and there's a lot of distrust and just all sorts of feelings after that, which, you know, that's natural, it's normal. And I like the fact that it has carried on with her, and some other people in the chat have said that it carries on even further in the book, so I am very interested to see how that plays out, because that to me is realistic. You know, you don't, even if you are fine after an event like that, you're not fine. You don't just, it doesn't happen and you don't just spring back to being exactly how you were before. It will affect you in some way, no matter how big or small. And I definitely see that and feel that in this book, and I really, really like that. Even though that what happened to her was awful, the way that it's been written afterwards in her kind of personality, I can really appreciate. And that's another thing, just in general, I really like the characterizations in this. I might not be the biggest fan of the writing, and I'm not sure where the plot's going, and it might not be my next favourite book or anything, but I really do like and appreciate the characterizations. I mentioned it before that Circa doesn't feel like a young child, and that's true, she doesn't. She feels very mature and grown up, but not overly so. It is a bit odd, but at the same time I think now that's making sense, because I think it might be her in the future retelling what happened. I'm not sure on that, I'll obviously find out more as I read more. But another one I noticed particularly is the Lady Una, but she is very much the bad guy in this story, and I just remember messaging our group chat saying I hate her. Like, I was very emphatic about this. I was like, I hate her. And I don't know what it is about characters that inspires such rage in me, but I really like it. I think it's just the way that the author has managed to draw that amount of emotion out of me, because a lot of the time I can read things and just be like, whatever, you know, like take it or leave it. But the fact that I feel so strongly about the Lady Una is a testament to Marilia's writing ability. So yeah, I really, really dislike her. She is very cold and calculating and sly and very typical of like a fairy tale villain. The brothers as well, we haven't seen as much of them now, obviously because it's first person from Circa's point of view anyway, but now that they have been turned into swans, they're obviously absent and we're trying to rescue them. So yeah, we haven't really seen much of them, but from what we have seen from before that, and then obviously Circa describing them, they all have their own personalities. None of them are copies of the other. They all feel very, I don't want to say realistic because I haven't seen enough of them to make that judgment yet, but they feel very true to how a family is. No one in a family is exactly the same. You can be as similar as you want, but there will be one thing that like defines you as your own person. And I like that about the brothers and Circa, because they all have their own little quirks and mannerisms, and they've all got their own flaws, and they're all just very rounded. I think my favourite thing at the minute is the characters, but I'm just going to carry on reading and updating you as and when I have something to say. But I think stepping back from it for like, what, 24 hours or however long it's been beneficial, because I feel like clear-headed about it. I'm not as much like, oh, I don't want to read it, I'm not enjoying it. I feel more like, no, this is a good point. So yeah, so hopefully I enjoy it as it progresses, but as I said, we shall see. back in my dressing gown, I'm back in bed, our normal service has resumed. Since I last updated you, I have played a lot of Assassin's Creed, but I've also read a lot. I am this far through, I'm on page 422, so I'm actually finally almost done. Did that make sense? I'm almost done with this book. I've got just over 200 pages left and the end is in sight. But this is a really weird read for me because obviously I've read a lot and I feel like a lot's happened, but at the same time I feel like nothing has happened. The plot feels both like it's progressed really far and like we're exactly back at the beginning in the same situation we were in when we first met Circa and had the problem of her brothers being turned into swans. Despite it having been like 3 years, it feels like everything's taken place in the space of like a week or something. It feels both very short and long, if that makes sense. I can't get my head around the pacing because, like I said, it's been 3 years, but it feels like it hasn't, and I don't know what to make of it. And like I said, that it feels like a lot has happened, but also feels like not a lot has happened. I'm really struggling to like put into words how I feel and actually talk about this book because I don't know. I really don't. I've read 400 pages and I couldn't tell you anything about it other than thoughts I've had on the characters. I'm really struggling with this one. But back on the characterization thing that I was talking about, the character of Hugh, or Red, I'm pretty sure that he's the person that the romance with Circa is going to be involved with. I am like pretty sure he'll call off his wedding and will get involved with her. Whether they end up going back to Ireland or she stays in England, I don't know. I just know that they are going to be involved with each other because it can't go any other way. There has been no one else for her to form a kind of bond with, or there's just been no one else really. At first I thought it would be Simon, but turns out that Simon is his brother anyway, so at least that has all played out. But the point I was trying to make about his character, I do think that is where his plotline is going, but then I don't know how I feel about him. On one hand I'm like, oh yeah, he's a gentleman, but then on the other hand I'm like, oh, he's just a typical like fantasy man, if that makes sense. Like, he's a bit brusque and closed off and, oh, I don't want to talk about my feelings and all that kind of like crap that men do sometimes. But then on the other hand, he's very understanding of Circa, and every time she gives off like vibes of like, don't touch me, I don't want to talk about that, he backs off and respects that, and he's protected her and looked after her. So in that sense he's quite chivalrous and gallant and nice, but then in others I'm just like, no, there is a power dynamic here, and she is obviously on the lower end of it because she's younger, she's a foreigner essentially, everyone hates her, and he is a lord. So I don't know how I feel about that. I just know that they will end up together. I just know that's how it's going to go, and if it doesn't, then I will be extremely shocked. But yeah, I just don't have anything else to say. I couldn't tell you what the plot has been. She's still making these bloody shirts. It's been 3 years and she's still making them, and I get that it takes time, but like nothing else has happened, even though there clearly has been a lot happening because, you know, she's in a different country now with all these different people. There's like Red's uncle is evil and out to get her and stuff, and there's definitely going to be a plot with that, but there's only this much left, so I think that's going to carry on into book 2. And that leaves me at a point where I'm just like, okay, I don't think I'm going to finish this series. If the other 2 or however many books are of this size as well, then no, I will not be finishing this because this has been a chore. I'll say it, it's been a chore. I haven't really enjoyed it, and if the ending is crap, then no. Because I've just spent so much time on this, and to not enjoy it, I'm not going to carry on. And I'm not wording this coherently, but I just don't want to put myself through more long books that are mediocre, because that's how I feel about this. Because it has taken me so long, that's really dulled my enjoyment and made me not want to read it. And then when I have been reading it, I thrive off action scenes. I thrive off fast-paced things. In books anyway, in real life I'm like a snail, so you know, it's like we all have our faults. Mine is that I'm very slow and lazy, but in books and films it has to be action-packed. It really has to grip my attention, and meandering things like this don't. And it's not even the fact that it's character driven, because I don't feel it is character driven, and even though character driven stuff can be slow, if it's a good character I will enjoy that. But this is just, I don't know, it's not my cup of tea. I'm glad I've given it a go, because it is like classic fantasy, and like it's been interesting to see how the kind of historical elements of Great Britain have intertwined with Celtic folklore and a fairy tale retelling. Like, that has been really interesting to see, and I think that has been done really, really well, and I think the writing is good. I just don't think there's a lot of substance to it. I think it's lacking in plot and action, like I said, and that's what I like best. I do like character stuff, but even though I do like these characters, it doesn't feel like a true character-driven story, if that makes sense. Other people might think it is, because it is so heavily focused on Circa and her brothers, but personally, I haven't been getting on with it, and I've spent more time lately playing Assassin's Creed than reading this, because I just need some bloody action and some fast-paced media in my life, and this book is not giving me that, so I don't think I'll be continuing, which is a shame, because I know a lot of the other people in the Myth Take chat who have actually finished this have really enjoyed it, and so I feel not like I've let people down, but at the same time like I've let people down, because obviously I'm a co-host and I haven't really enjoyed the book of the month, and that just feels a bit like weird to me. I feel like I should be like hyping it up and everything, but instead I'm sitting here going, it's not that good, don't put yourself through it. But I'm being honest, I'm not gonna lie to you and say it's amazing, when at most it's gonna be a 3-star read for me. So yeah, I don't think I'll have anything else to update you on, but when I finish it I will pop in and say my final thoughts. But as I have very poorly said, I don't have much to say on this, and yet this clip is like 8 minutes long. Fantastic. Don't have much to say, but I can ramble for ages. Yeah, here's hoping it picks up in the last 200 pages. My hopes are not high, but okay, so this time I don't actually have any reading updates for you, but I have some general Myth Take updates. As you might have seen from the previous clip, we had a Twitter chat on May 25th. It was the first one we'd done. It went really, really well, if I do say so myself. Quite a few people interacted and joined in. We got a lot of new followers for it, and for that we're just so grateful. We thought it was going to be a bit of a flop, but it wasn't, and it was just really enjoyable to connect with people and talk about fantasy and myths and just everything that we're doing with Myth Take. So we are aware that a lot of people might have missed out on this, so we want to see if people want another, and if you do, let me or Ashley know, let both of us know, let the account know, just contact us in some way if you would like another one, and if you would like it to be on anything specific, because I kind of said we might need to tailor it a bit more, because the one we just had was just on like fantasy in general, but now that we've done that, we might have to tailor it more to the books we're reading, or say, oh, we're going to do like a Greek myth Q&A, or we're going to do a fairy tale, a Hans Christian Andersen Twitter chat. So if you would like to talk about anything in particular, please let us know on Twitter, on here, on Instagram, wherever is easiest for you. And following on from that, at the end of the Twitter chat, we announced our June book of the month, and I'm going to go and get it for you to show you it. So I'm back with the book, and that book is The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, and I am very excited about this one. I've been wanting to read it for quite some time now, and the second book is out, so it's the perfect timing. But this is the book for June. The overarching theme for June is Middle Eastern folklore, because this is set in 18th century, I think? Yes, 18th century Cairo, which is in Egypt, obviously, and is a bit of a retelling of 1001 Nights and features jinn warriors. I don't know too much more than that. I think the main character is like a con woman spy type thing, and she doesn't believe in magic, and then this jinn warrior appears and dealing with that, I think. I don't know quite how that works. But yeah, there's quite a few different elements of Middle Eastern folklore in there. So yeah, we really do hope that people can join in with this. It is very easy to get hold of this. I will have a link to the book depository down below, but I personally got my copy secondhand off the Amazon marketplace, and it's, other than a few like wrinkles on the spine, it's in very good condition, so definitely check that out if that is an option to you. Mine cost me, I think altogether it was like £5 with shipping, when new it's about £8 I think, which that's not bad buying off Amazon or whatever for £8, but it was cheaper to get it secondhand, so I did that. But you should be able to find it in Waterstones, WH Smith's, anywhere else that sells books, in wherever you are. Should be on, like I said, Book Depository, maybe Wordery, try Aid Books. There are a lot of different places you can get it, so we really hope that a lot of people join in for this one. And if you have already read this one and want to read the sequel, that is more than fine. If you want to read this and then read the sequel, again, that's fine. I know Ashley will be doing that because she's rereading this, and if I enjoy this, I probably will pick up the sequel as well. Please join in with this if you can. Use the hashtag MythTakeReads, and even if you don't read this and you've read something else that's set in the Middle East or retells 1001 Nights, or even if you haven't, even if you just read anything mythy, please use the hashtag and talk to us about it, because we'd like to know. And I know Ashley mentioned this, but we are creating a master list of, you know, books like this that are fantasy and are retelling myths and fairy tales. So I will probably go into that a bit more in depth later, because this is just a quick little update thing. But if you have any recommendations for fantasy myth retellings, shoot my way, because we are adding them to this huge list. And I will leave a link to Ashley's video down below where you can find out more about that, because she explained it much better. But for now, oh Jesus, nearly dropped my drink, didn't I? But for now, I'm gonna go and read some more of this. I think I have the last 2 chapters left, so I'm hoping I can finish that right now. I'm not holding out much hope, but at least one will be read right now. I have just finished Daughter of the Forest by Juliet Maria. I don't quite know what to think, in all honesty. The last 100 or so pages, the last 2 or 3 chapters went by a lot faster than the rest of the book. However, I don't think that was done in a good way. I feel like it was very rushed and very like, oh, it's the end, I've got to sort everything out, and I didn't like any of the endings the characters got, which is a shame, because I did like the characters, I just didn't like the story. I just felt like all the brothers going away, it was very much a, let's just get them out of the way, and nothing felt tied up properly. It was just, I don't know how I feel about this book. I don't know what I'm going to rate it. I'm very torn between a 2-star and a 3-star rating, because that ending was just awful in my opinion. The one redeeming thing of the ending was the fact that Red gave up everything to be with Circa, because it's like in fantasy, and especially like older fantasy, like a historical setting and stuff that was written a while ago, it's very, 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 very rare for the man to be the one to give up everything. It's usually the woman that gives up everything for him. So to see that he gave up everything for her and was living with her in her household was refreshing to see, but at the same time I didn't like that part of it, because I didn't, throughout the story, even though they were together and were forming a bond and stuff, it didn't feel like a romance or a relationship. It felt very much more of like a older brother type thing. I don't know, maybe that's just because we had all her brothers looking after her, and I kind of like projected that onto him as well. I don't know, but I wasn't a fan of that, because I just didn't think there was a romantic relationship between them. And then she seemed to like change a bit with that when he came to Seven Waters, and I didn't like that. And as I said, I just felt that the brothers were like pushed out the way out the story to move on with whatever's next, but I will not be finding out what is next because I'll be damned if I read any more of these books. That was difficult getting through that, 650 pages. And that's the other thing, it's like, it was that long and then everything was wrapped up in the last 3 chapters and I'm just like, really? We've had at least like 300, 400 pages of doing naff all, and now suddenly you're shoving it all into the last 100 pages, and it just, I don't know, the pacing was very off. The beginning took forever, the middle, it was more middle than anything else, and then the ending was rushed and bad, and I didn't like the pacing, as I've said many times. But now that I've finished it, I can confirm that the pacing did not improve. In fact, it got worse, and yeah, I just think it could have been a much shorter book, because a lot of, well, not a lot of stuff at all, a lot of the stuff that happened in the middle could have just been like cut down, but there was nothing that happened in the middle. There was nothing that happened. She spent 3 years making shirts, which I get took a long time. But yeah, and there was also the thing, when she finally finished the shirts and was putting them on her brothers, that again felt very rushed and very convenient, that, oh look, they're finally here and they've saved her, and oh no, she spoke, but it's okay because the wind put it on Finbar and stuff, so it's fine. It was weird that he had the whole like swan family going on and then he still has his wing, but at the same time I liked that because the last shirt she made, she didn't have time to finish the final sleeve, so when it put it on him, that bit that didn't have a sleeve remained swan, which I liked, but at the same time it was weird. And I think that's pretty much my feelings for the entire book. It was alright, but it was weird. And another thing, the villain, Lady Una, just kind of vanished. She placed the curse on the brothers and then disappeared for the rest of the book, and I don't get that. I don't get why that happened. I get that Circa had gone to Britain and therefore had like physically left her behind, but at the same time I kind of expected more from her, like more repercussions, more like I expected her to just do something else. And I know she kind of like left their father in a shitty situation where, you know, he couldn't do anything and then all his lands and people and stuff just went to hell. I don't know, there are a lot of loose ends in this that were not wrapped up, and I certainly won't be wrapping them up in any more books, but I just feel like I didn't get anything from the book or the story. I didn't like the story, I didn't like the plot, because I didn't really think there was one. We were just meandering, watching her make these shirts, and it was just very neither here nor there. And I don't know how to put it into words. It's just the fact that I've read all of that book and don't know what to say. It makes me feel very frustrated because I like to try and give more like in-depth thoughts into my thoughts and my feelings toward books and like reactions to what's happened, but I don't have any. I don't have any thoughts. I don't have any reactions to things because nothing happened for me to react to. I don't have any thoughts because nothing really happened, and I was reading it almost as if it was like an out-of-body experience. Like I was reading it, but I was floating like above here, like watching myself read, because like it wasn't going in, and even what was going in I was like, well, what's the point, because there's nothing going on. And I think I also feel mostly out of sorts because like everyone else who's finished this book has loved it. Everyone in the Myth Take chat has been loving it, so yeah, I'm in the minority there. So hopefully some other people will come in and say, oh yeah, no, I didn't like it and this is why, and like I can be like, ah yes, your reason, you've done good words, that's why. But I just didn't enjoy it, so I'm sorry for that. And I do kind of feel like I've let Myth Take down, as I have said several times, being a co-host and not liking the book. But I wasn't to know that. I thought it would be good going in, and I was mistaken. And I know that slow books aren't always bad books, but this, for me, was a slow book. for me was a slow book, and also in my opinion it was a bad book. And by bad I just mean that it wasn't good, which is what bad means. But I don't want to say it was bad and awful and horrible and no good, because it wasn't. As proved by the countless people who have read it and loved it, just for me it wasn't a good, enjoyable book. And in this case it was very much a case of slow equaling not enjoyable, and I just feel let down by it. I feel like I've let Mistake down, and I just really hope our next read is a lot more enjoyable for me, which I think it will be, because it's YA fantasy and that tends to be a lot more fast-paced and just a bit kind of easygoing. Like, I'm not to dismiss that as like a genre, because like I am like one of the biggest advocates for young adult fiction. Like, I am by no means one to say, oh, it's lesser, it's not as good. Like, it's not what I'm saying at all. When you compare it to things like Game of Thrones and like epic fantasy, it's like we've got the epic fantasy, high fantasy, and then like young adult. And yes, they can cross over, but for the most part I would say they are distinct and just more enjoyable for me, because they are a lot faster, more action-packed, and usually shorter. But City of Brass it's a long book. I think it's over 500 pages, but I'm just hoping I fly through it and that I enjoy it. So yeah, yeah, I'm glad I finished it. I'm glad I gave it a go, like I said before, but at the same time I kind of wish I hadn't. Had it not been for Mistake, I definitely would not have picked this up. It's not the type of thing that I go for, and I don't think I'll be going for things like it in the future, because I didn't really like it. Part of me wants to give it a 3-star rating, but then part of me is like, is that too generous? Because I didn't really like it. I just thought it was okay, and I'm probably going to get rid of this copy and I'm not going to read any more. So I just feel a bit like, I'm sorry I didn't like it, but at the same time it's my opinion. I'm not going to lie to you, I didn't enjoy it. But yeah, that is May's book of the month done. I will probably go over it more in my wrap up, which will probably be a bit late because this vlog took forever, because that book took me forever. But yeah, there might be some more coherent thoughts in my wrap up. If not, this is what you're gonna get again, because I don't know how I feel about that book. I read a lot of it, there was a lot of book in that book, but I don't have a lot of thoughts, so we shall see. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of, the fact that I don't have anything to say after reading it is kind of, but it's done now, and yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this vlog, or at least enjoyed it more than I enjoyed the book. But yeah, for now I am going to go and decide on a rating for that, and I will see you guys in another video. Bye.